Something happened this week that I have not been able to stop thinking about. Three completely separate parts of North America started shaking at almost exactly the same time. Nevada, the Pacific Ocean off Washington State, and Ottawa, Canada. Three earthquakes, three completely different geological settings in a 48-hour window. And when I started mapping this out on paper, I had to step back because the picture that emerged tells a story about what is happening underneath this entire continent right now, a story nobody is putting together in one place. Until this video, let me start with what happened in Nevada, because that one is the freshest. Monday, April 13th, 2026, 6:29 in the evening, local time. A magnitude 5.7 earthquake struck near Silver Springs, Nevada, just 12.9 miles east of the town of Silver Springs, 3.1 miles deep. That depth, guys, is shallow. Very shallow. Shallow earthquakes release their energy at the surface. They do not have the depth to dissipate. They hit hard and they spread far. 2.15 million people felt this quake. Let me say that again. 2,150,000 people in Nevada, California, and surrounding states felt this earthquake. Over 6,000 people felt reports with the USGS within hours. Shattered glass in a Fallon grocery store, products scattered across the floor, items knocked from shelves all the way in Carson City, 40 miles away. A woman in Fallon described hearing the rumbling before it even hit, then her house shaking for nearly a full minute. The Nevada Seismological Laboratory confirmed 43 aftershocks by 7:55 p.m. And within 3 hours, the USGS issued its aftershock forecast. 17% chance of another earthquake magnitude 5 or larger in the next week. Up to 210 earthquakes of magnitude 3 or higher expected in the coming days. Magnitude 3 earthquakes are felt, clearly. But here is what makes this earthquake more than just another Nevada tremor. And this is what I want to spend time on because the context is everything. This quake struck the Walker Lane. If you do not know what the Walker Lane is, you need to, because this is one of the most important and least discussed seismic systems in the entire United States. The Walker Lane is a 600-mile-long zone of active faults, running from Death Valley in the south all the way up to Northern California and western Nevada. It follows the California-Nevada border like a shadow, 60 miles wide, and it accommodates roughly 20% of all the tectonic motion between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate. Think about that. The San Andreas Fault is the most famous fault in America. Everyone knows it, but the Walker Lane is doing 20% of the same work in silence, without a fraction of the attention. And a seismologist at the University of Nevada, Reno, named Kieran Bogalub, told reporters this week something that stopped me when I read it. He said this earthquake ranks among the biggest in Nevada in around 60 years, about the seventh largest earthquake in Nevada in 6 decades. And he said the Walker Lane is probably the most seismically active part of Nevada. But here is the number that matters most. Another UNR expert told reporters directly, getting a magnitude 7 earthquake in this region would not be shocking to me. Not shocking. A magnitude 7 is 63 times more powerful than the 5.7 that just shook 2 million people. If a magnitude 7 struck this region, it would be felt across the entire western United States, and this Nevada event is not isolated. Just 16 months ago, in December 2024, another magnitude 5.7 struck in roughly the same area of western Nevada. 2 M5.7 earthquakes. Same region, 16 months apart. Seismologists at Earthquake Insights analyzed this week's event and concluded that the stress changes from the December 2024 earthquake probably had something to do with initiating the second. That is one earthquake triggering conditions for another. The 1954 precedent they referenced is worth knowing. In July, August, and December of 1954, Nevada was hit by a half-dozen earthquakes above magnitude 5.7 in a single year. Multiple events, same zone, dominoes falling. Does that mean it is happening again now? Not necessarily, but the pattern is real, and right now, the Walker Lane is awake. Can you give this video a like and share it with someone right now? 3 seismic events across North America in 48 hours is not the kind of thing most people are piecing together. Help me get this information out. It costs you nothing and it means a lot. So while Nevada was shaking on Monday, 2 days earlier on April 12th, something was happening in the Pacific Ocean, something that caught the attention of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Starting around midnight on April 12th, 18 earthquakes began firing off along the Juan de Fuca Ridge, 250 miles off the coast of Washington state. In 12 hours, the largest reaching magnitude 4.2. The Pacific Northwest Seismic Network described this in their own words as quite an active swarm. Now, the Juan de Fuca Ridge is where new oceanic crust is being born. Two plates moving apart, magma rising from below, the seafloor literally cracking open and spreading. It is one of the most geologically dynamic places on Earth, and it sits 250 miles west of one of the most dangerous fault systems on the planet, the Cascadia Subduction Zone. If you have heard of the big one in the context of the Pacific Northwest, this is what they are referring to. The Cascadia Subduction Zone is 620 miles long, running from northern Vancouver Island in Canada all the way down to northern California, where the Juan de Fuca plate is diving beneath the North American plate at a rate of roughly 40 millimeters per year. That is 1.6 inches every single year, building, accumulating, locking, storing energy. The last time Cascadia fully ruptured was January the 26th, 1700, 326 years ago. The magnitude was estimated at 9.0. It dropped the Oregon coastline several feet in seconds, sent a tsunami racing across the Pacific that Japanese historical records captured that same night. Current scientific estimates put the probability of a magnitude 7.1 or larger earthquake in the Cascadia subduction zone at 37% within the next 50 years, and the probability of a full rupture, a magnitude 9 or above, at 10 to 15% within 50 years. 1 in 7 to 1 in 10 chance of a magnitude 9 earthquake in our lifetimes. Now, I want to be very precise about the Juan de Fuca Ridge swarm. The Pacific Northwest Seismic Network's director, Harold Tobin from the University of Washington, stated clearly that the swarm poses no risk at all to people on land. He specifically noted these earthquakes were along the Juan de Fuca Ridge, not the Cascadia subduction zone. Not at axial seamount, the underwater volcano that scientists have been watching for signs of eruption, farther north along the same ridge system. He said the region is not expected to generate earthquakes above magnitude 7 or 7.5. So this specific swarm is not a Cascadia warning. That matters. I want to be clear. But here is what I think is important. A new study published in February 2026 by University of Washington researchers just changed how scientists understand the Cascadia fault. The first ever offshore monitoring of Cascadia strain over an extended period found something unexpected. While the northern portion of the fault appears fully locked, the central section shows evidence of slow slip events and fluid movement. The lead researcher, University of Washington professor Maureen Denole, said they found variable fluid pathways that could change the behavior of large earthquakes on the fault. And co-author William Wilcox said, and I am paraphrasing carefully, the fault may not be completely locked, suggesting there may be more going on than researchers had previously figured out. More going on. At Cascadia. Right now. And the Juan de Fuca plate is moving toward North America at 4 centimeters per year. It cannot stop. It has not stopped in 200 million years. And when the tension finally exceeds what the plates can hold, the result will be the most powerful earthquake in modern North American history. So no, the April 12th swarm at the Juan de Fuca Ridge was not a warning signal. But it is a reminder that this entire system is alive and that we are 326 years into a roughly 500-year cycle. Further in this video, I want to talk about why Ottawa is shaking and what it means that the ground under Canada's capital is moving. Because this is perhaps the most overlooked of the three events, and it carries the most surprising history. On April 14th, 2026, at 12:36 in the afternoon, a magnitude 3.9 earthquake struck near Shawville, Quebec. 20 kilometers, that is 12 miles northeast of Shawville, 77 kilometers, that is 48 miles west of Ottawa, 13 kilometers deep. The German Research Center for Geosciences initially measured it at magnitude 4.6. The Raspberry Shake Citizen Seismograph Network confirmed 4.6 as well. Earthquakes Canada settled on 3.9 to 4.0 after analysis. The quake was felt in Ottawa, in Pembroke, in Constance Bay, in Fitzroy Harbor, in Montreal, in Toronto, in Barrie, in Orillia, in North Bay. People across Ontario and Quebec reported their homes shaking. More than 2,500 people filed reports with Earthquakes Canada. One woman in Pembroke said she could hear the washer and dryer in her basement banging. Her dog jumped off the couch. Her cat went into a panic. A resident in Otter Lake said neighbors reported pictures falling off the walls of their homes. A resident in Constance Bay said the building was vibrating and it sounded like a large truck was driving past, and the vibration increased. And in a remarkable moment, cameras live streaming the House of Commons were shaking visibly as the earthquake rolled through, with parliamentarians debating during the tremor. Canada's parliament shaking during an active session. So what is going on under Ottawa? Because the answer is something most people do not know, and it is much more serious than a minor 3.9 event would suggest. Ottawa sits in what is called the Western Quebec Seismic Zone, a 500-kilometer band of intraplate seismicity stretching from the Adirondack Highlands in the United States all the way up to the Laurentian Highlands in Canada. The zone runs directly through the Ottawa Valley, through Gatineau, through Montreal, and it averages roughly one seismic event every 5 days. Every 5 days. Most of them too small to feel, but the zone has produced serious earthquakes. In 1732, a magnitude 5.8 earthquake shook Montreal, causing significant damage. In 1935, Timiskaming was struck by a magnitude 6.2 earthquake. In 1944, the Cornwall-Messina earthquake, magnitude 5.6, caused $2 million in damage in the currency of the time. In 2010, a magnitude 5.0 struck Val-des-Bois, north of Ottawa. Felt all the way from Maryland to Michigan to Vermont. The largest recorded earthquake in this region's history is a magnitude 6.2. And geophysical research suggests prehistoric earthquakes in the Ottawa region may have reached magnitude 7 or greater. Magnitude 7, near Ottawa, in ancient times. The research I found, published in the Journal of Geophysical Research, states explicitly that the microseismicity clusters in the Western Quebec seismic zone coincide with locations of large historic and prehistoric events. And if the prehistoric earthquakes near Ottawa were of magnitude 7 or greater, as suggested by Aylesworth et al., and then the rupture dimension would also be very large. So what is this zone built on? Because this is the geological story that makes intraplate earthquakes like this one possible. The Western Quebec seismic zone sits in ancient rock called Grenville Age terrain, more than 1 billion years old, crossed by the Ottawa Bonnecaire Graben, a series of ancient rift faults running through the Ottawa Valley. These are old fractures in the North American plate from when the continent tried to tear apart hundreds of millions of years ago. The continent healed, but the fault lines never fully disappeared. And today, as the North American plate is compressed by ongoing tectonic forces, those ancient weaknesses are being reactivated. Scientists describe them as reactivated under the present-day compressive stress regime. The Monday afternoon earthquake near Shawville struck almost exactly the same location as a magnitude 5.2 earthquake in 2013 and near the Val-des-Bois earthquake in 2010. The same zone, repeatedly activated, and a study published in 2021 in Earth and Space Science found that some of the faults in the Ottawa Bonnecaire Graben, if they were to rupture along their full length, could produce earthquakes of magnitude 6.6 or higher, 6.6 near Ottawa. a city of 1.4 million people, most buildings not designed to the seismic standards of California or Japan, because Canada east of the Rockies is not supposed to be earthquake country, right? Except it is. It always has been. Now, let me bring all three events together because I think this is where the real story lives. Nevada, the Juan de Fuca Ridge, Ottawa, same 48-hour window, three completely independent geological systems, all activating at roughly the same time. And here is the honest answer to the question of why North America is rattling. Each of these three systems has its own independent cause. The Nevada M5.7 is the Walker Lane adjusting to stress accumulated over decades, probably connected to the December 2024 earthquake sequence. The Juan de Fuca Ridge swarm is the normal activity of a mid-ocean spreading center where seafloor is constantly being created. The Ottawa 3.9 is the ancient Ottawa-Bonnecaire Graben reactivating under compressional stress as it does repeatedly in the western Quebec seismic zone. None of these events caused the others. The geology does not work that way across these distances, but here is why I think it matters to look at them together anyway. North America is not a seismically quiet continent, not the West Coast, not the interior, not even the middle of Canada. The entire plate is alive, every part of it, from the Pacific spreading center to the ancient cratons of eastern Canada, is under stress. Moving, adjusting, building. And when three separate geological systems in completely different parts of the continent all produce notable seismic events in the same 48-hour window, it is a reminder. Not that something catastrophic is coming, not that these events are connected, but that the planet beneath our feet is in constant motion, constantly releasing energy, constantly adjusting the incredible slow collision of forces that has been going on for hundreds of millions of years. And the one thing that unites all three of these events is this: they all happened in zones where larger earthquakes are not only possible, but historically documented. The Walker Lane has produced M7 earthquakes within living memory. The Cascadia subduction zone has produced M9 earthquakes within documented history. The Western Quebec seismic zone has produced M6.2 earthquakes within a century and possibly M7 earthquakes in pre-colonial times. The question is not whether these systems are capable. We know they are. The question is what each of us in these regions is doing about it. If you live in Western Nevada, do you have a go bag? Do you know your evacuation route? Do you know which buildings near you were built before seismic codes were strengthened? If you live in the Pacific Northwest, do you know where your tsunami evacuation zone starts? Do you know how to tell the difference between a shake alert notification and a test? Do you know that you may have only 15 to 20 minutes between a Cascadia rupture and the first tsunami wave reaching the coast? If you live in the Ottawa region, do you know that your city has been ranked the third most at-risk Canadian city for earthquake damage after Vancouver and Montreal? Third, not 20th. Third, these are not theoretical risks. They are historical facts, and they got a little more visible this week. I will be watching the aftershock sequence in Nevada closely. I will be watching the Juan de Fuca system for any changes in swarm behavior. And I will be watching the Western Quebec seismic zone for any escalation, because that is what I am here for, to stay on the pulse for you. Everything I've covered here and more is in the end screen. And if you want to support this channel, keep this analysis coming and help me get this kind of information to more people. You know where to find me. Stay safe, guys. Be aware. Look up, look down, look left, look right, anywhere basically. Bye-bye.